Yeah.
We'll have to wait and see. So we got, let's see, what this morning we're going to be talking, Dion, we're going to be talking a little tree care this morning, correct? How to take care of those trees that you planted and stuff?
That's right.
Yep.
The whole thing is that, trees are not a put it in and walk away kind of thing. There is a certain amount of care involved. Last year, what the big problem was flooding out. The thing with new trees is the seedlings are more sensitive conditions than the mature trees are. So last year they flooded out a lot faster than mature trees would. This year the problem is the heat and the dry. And the first thing I wanted to mention is that there is a recommendation from NRCS that if you've got new plantings, if they're not getting enough through the rain, you want to put on, they figure about 5 gallons a week per tree, and then for the next 2 years, about 10 gallons every other week. So if you've got trees in there, you really do want to get out there and water them this year. The other thing, of course, there's other care involved. The main thing is the competition from weeds, and there are several different options for that. Some people would prefer to just stick with tilling them. The thing you need to remember with that is you don't want to be damaging your tree roots, so you don't want to go more than about 1 to 3 inches deep, and you want to stay about 2 feet away from the trees. Within that 2 feet, you're going to have to do it by hand. Otherwise, like I said, you're going to damage your tree roots. What we do a lot these days is we use the weed barrier fabric, and that basically covers it up so that the weeds can't grow up through it, and then that decreases the competition right next to the trees there. The thing is, that's also not a lay it and walk away thing. There is some maintenance involved. You still do need to pull trees in those openings, pull weeds in those openings for the trees. And you also need to check those holes every couple of years, because if the tree's growing and the fabric is getting tight around the trees, you need to open that up some more so you can't girdle the trees.
Yeah, that's I know my dad has planted some trees on his farm, and he lays the layer on top of there, and
right.
I didn't realize that it's not carefree. You have to go in there and still pull the weeds in the holes and stuff.
Yes, yeah. It greatly decreases the competition, but there is still that hole there where it can come through, and like I said, you do need to watch those holes. The other thing is you still have that strip between the rows. If you've got more than one row, you've got that strip in between the fabric, and there's a question of what you want to do with that, and there are a couple options there. Again, some people will want to till it, or they might want to just mow the weeds. The only thing you need to keep in mind there is that you're not going to catch that fabric and pull it up, because first of all, it negates the value of the fabric, and second, you could damage your trees at the same time. And you also want to make sure you're not throwing a bunch of dirt and clippings on top of there, because that gives a substrate for the weeds to germinate. And while they can't grow up through the fabric, they can grow down through it. And again, so much for your advantage of having the fabric. So you want to keep an eye on that. Other options, of course, you can use herbicides as long as you're careful not to damage your trees at the same time. But the other one that's recommended is if you plant these short warm season grasses in that strip between your trees. These will help keep the weeds down, but they also don't compete with the trees so much because they like to take water at a different time of the year. So that's another one that's really been recommended lately, is that you go with those warm season grasses.
Okay, and then so basically the probably the best way to do it is put the layer down, like the top layer there, and that'll help. But you can use tillage, but you don't want to go too.
You can't go too close or too deep, or you're going to damage your roots. And
okay.
Yeah.
Now, whenever I've planted a tree, I've always taken it out of the pot, and I've maybe given the roots some air. Is that recommended or no?
Not really. What you want to do is, if you've got a tree in the pot, you want to kind of pull those roots out so that they're not going to be root bound and wrapping around.
Okay.
But you don't want them to dry out. You want to get them in the ground, get them watered, make sure that they stay moist.
All right. Sounds good. We're talking with some folks from the Foster County Soil Conservation. Kurt, can you add anything to our tree care this morning?
Well, you drive around town, you see a lot of new trees this last couple of years, especially this year. There's a lot of new trees, and I see that they're struggling. And I think if you're gonna maybe limit the water on your lawn, maybe forget about your lawn. And I think it'd be probably more important to make sure them young trees get some water, because it's pretty critical that first year. So
5 gallons recommended per week for the first growing season.
For the first season, yes.
Okay, 5 gallons per tree.
Okay.
And 10 gallons every week after that for the following 2 years. So that's a lot of water.
Yeah, it is.
Especially if it's not raining like it is right now.
So,
okay.
yeah, so if you don't have a way of getting that water to them, you might want to ask around and see if you can borrow something. Or it's an awful lot of work to plant those trees just to watch them die.
Yeah, exactly, and they can be expensive too. Now that brings us to our next topic. There are some grants available for if you want to plant some trees, correct?
There is one that I did want to mention today. The North Dakota Forest Service has a tree conservation assistance program. And what this is, they gear it mainly toward landowners that aren't going to be able to get EQIP or WIP. So even if you've applied for those, it's worth trying this. If you don't get accepted, it's worth a try. But mainly what they're trying to do is help people plant trees, which is what this is intended for. And what it does is you can get a grant award of up to 75% of the cost of that planting, with a maximum amount of $1,500 through the grant. The landowner has to pay for at least 25% of it. The deadline to apply for this is October 22nd, but we're going to suggest that you don't wait to the last minute, because with that application you have to have a tree plan. So you'd want to come into our office, we'd look at the site and the soils and what kind of trees you want to plant and how many rows, and we'd put a tree plan together for you and a cost that you could have, what you would send in with that application. And they're not going to accept it unless you have that tree plan, so you do want to get in time to get that put together.
Now, is that just Foster County, or is that all of North Dakota?
This is North Dakota Forest Service, so it's statewide that it's available.
So anybody can go in and...
Yeah, if you live in another county, go to your soil conservation district there. They'll be happy to help you, I'm sure. Okay,
and then you can get up to $1,500 to plant some new trees. Now, the farmer would have to cover 25% of the $1,500, basically.
No, it's 75% up to an amount of $1,500.
Okay.
So if the planting costs a total of $2,000, the landowner's share would be $500, and the grant would cover the rest of it. If it costs more than $2,000, you'd have to cover anything over that $1,500.
Okay. Are there certain trees that you recommend for, shelter belts and that kind of thing? I mean, or
we do get the conservation grade trees from the nursery in Lincoln Oaks and from the Towner Nursery. And from there on, the choice depends on what kind of purposes you have in mind for your shelter belts. And of course, the first question is, what kind of soils do you have? Because in order for it to meet specs, it's got to be a tree that we know is going to grow on those soils.
All right, excellent. Good stuff there this morning. Kurt, what's on your mind this morning?
Well, not a lot. We're just kind of waiting here on Don. He's with the NRCS, and there's some office changing there, so hopefully he'll pop in the door here. He can explain that. But I don't know, the hot weather, I guess I'm not much for hot weather, and hopefully we get some rain and it'll start cooling off. Combining is really going good, though. I think this might be some of the earliest harvest finishing up that we've had for a long, long time. So, and then myself, some other guys, were starting fall calving this week. The calves will start popping in a week or so, dropping on the ground. So, and there's not too many of us out there, but fall calving seems to work pretty good for a few people. So
that starts here in the next couple weeks.
Yep,
so,
I'll probably start the first week of August. We'll start dropping some calves. So
okay.
But here the main man comes in, so help. There's some office, a little bit of office changing in between Foster and Eddy County, and Don can explain that.
So Don Olds, he is the National Resources Conservation Service District Conservationist. And Don, good morning. How is it going this morning?
It's going fine. There's traffic on the road, combines moving around, and that's why I didn't get here. You can't, that highway's busy in the morning some days.
Yeah, we got a field right out here right in front of the station, and seen the combines go there the other day, so that's a good sign. Harvest is underway. Let's see. So you're taking on a new responsibility, adding another county to your title. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what happened. We're gonna try this till about into December. See make sure that that we can do it without any lag to customer service or technical assistance that we've done that we do out in the field. One of the main advantages is that I live in New Rockford. I've worked in the New Rockford field office before I came to Carrington, so I'm familiar with the producers in both counties. I've worked with them for 15 years now. I've been here in these two counties working, so they just felt that management thought that it would be a good fit for me to try to take over both offices, and I'll be doing a shared management type thing where I'll be spending Mondays and Tuesdays in New Rockford, Wednesdays and Thursdays in Carrington.
Okay.
I'll be here from 8 to 4:30 those days, and then probably half days on Fridays. And that pretty much mimics what the Farm Services Agency's schedule is right now, as they're doing shared management where they're going to both offices. So I'll be available when they're available, because that way I'll be there if producers have questions or anything like that. So I'm pretty confident that it'll work out really well. Have some really good staff. Everybody knows my staff in both counties, so we're just going to move ahead with it. It's all, it's a cost savings to the agency and such.
So any new any new ideas up there in New Rockford? Is it pretty much the same thing as Carrington, or is it a little bit different as far as what's going on there? Or?
Most everything is pretty much the same in the two counties as far as what conservation practices and things that are going on the ground. Programs and services are the same as what NRCS offers in both counties. Pretty much programs and services are consistent across the state as far as what the Natural Resources Conservation Service offers as far as technical and financial assistance to producers with the programs that we have. So.
And when do you take effect for New Rockford?
It took effect on Monday.
Oh, okay. So brand new, pretty much.
Well, yeah. I'm getting my feet underneath me again.
Yeah. Well, you're from New Rockford, is that correct?
No, I'm not from New
Rockford.
I live in New Rockford.
You live in New Rockford. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I've lived there for about 15 years. I'm originally from Crosby, North Dakota, so.
Okay. Alrighty. So yeah, those are taking effect already. So you'll be the district conservationist for both counties. How do we get it? How do we get a hold of you and that kind of stuff?
You can call either service center in either New Rockford or Carrington. Leave a message if I'm needed in the field, whether I'm in New Rockford or Carrington. I'm not that far away to where I can schedule meetings in the field with producers, or if they leave a message, I can get right back to them. Pretty much with the technology we have today, it's pretty easy to get a hold of me.
All sorts of avenues. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to add this morning, Don?
No, that's.
All right. Well,
just wanted to update everybody on what.
Yeah. Sorry for putting you on the air. Right as he walks in the door, we got him on the air. So
that's fine. I'm used to that kind of thing.
Yeah, we normally have to put them on a timer when we have board meetings. So, but one thing maybe throw in, I think they're going to open up CRP for emergency haying and grazing because the drought situation right now. So that's something that farmers can think about if they're a little short on pasture and hay.
Yeah, and that's administered through the Farm Services Agency. So I'll throw a plug in for those folks too, that they are looking at emergency haying and grazing, and then the managed haying and grazing. And they can come in and get a plan with us.
Thinking, Don, we can get you a little bit closer to the mic so we can catch you on there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like I said, I put a plug in to for Farm Services Agency as far as that goes, and their emergency haying and grazing, and they administer that program, so they need to check with Farm Services Agency on whether or not they're eligible to hay or graze.
Now, can you do all of CRP, or is it just a certain percentage that's allowed to hay right now?
A certain percentage,
okay.
And then there's only certain practices out there that can be hayed and grazed.
Okay.
Like I said, they'll need to check with FSA to see what's eligible.
All right. Yeah, it's good news and bad news, because unfortunately when that happens, it's usually a drought when they open that up. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. All
Maybe
right.
that'll bring the rain on then.
Yeah, that's right.
It usually happens when you get windrows on the ground. So.
Yeah. When you got hay to bale, then it's always raining. All right, let's see. Anything else this morning? Dion, Kurt, we want to talk about?
No, I think that's about it. We covered what we had today, so
all right,
appreciate you having us in. So we'll
Thanks for coming in.
See you next month.
All right, and that's the first Wednesday of every month. We have So we have Kurt and Dion, and then Don. I don't know, Don. You're probably not going to be here next Wednesday though, or the beginning of the next month.
You never know.
I will have you in. What? Why not?
Yeah.
We'll drag him in.
Yeah. So yeah, folks joining us from the Foster County Soil Conservation District. Thanks, guys, and have a good day today.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
All right, you bet. All right, that's let's see. We had Kurt Klein this morning, and she's the chairman of the Soil Conservation District and Board of Supervisors. Dion Schaff, she is the Soil Conservation District district manager, and we were talking tree care this morning. And Don Olds, he is the Natural Resources Conservation Service for the USDA. He is the district conservationist. He's going to be taking over in Foster. He was in Foster County. Now he'll be taking over Eddy County too. So we were just talking that this morning. Let's take a quick break here, and then we'll be back with more on Dakota Country Radio. Coming up, let's see, in the next 20 minutes, we will have a look at the radar weather coming up here shortly. And then the Trading Post, of course, is coming up at 10 minutes till. And birthday reports. So if you have a birthday, or if you know of anybody that has a birthday, give me a call right here at the station, 652-3151, and we'll announce it on the air for you. Also, any anniversary. So we'll take another break, and we'll be back right after this on KDAK. Actually, my commercials aren't running, so we are going to play some songs. How about that? So let's see. Here's Gwen Sebastian with Met 'Em in a Motel Room on Dakota Country Radio.